Welcome to Pesto Comics Audio Edition. This is the entry for November 27th, 2024. Fun with Fulfillment, From Parts Unknown #1, the second part of the From Parts Unknown postmortem. Welcome back. It's incredible how your perception of time can change completely depending on what you're going through. I feel like the campaign for From Parts Unknown #1 was months ago, when in reality, it just wrapped up with the last packages going out last week. Though there's still about 5 backers who never provided addresses. So there's still a potential that they fill out their surveys eventually. Fulfilling From Parts Unknown while simultaneously launching Big Smoke Pulp has made everything feel a lot faster than in the past, but in the best way. If anything has felt like it's stealing my attention, it's the Instant Ink comic book podcast. I do light edits at best, but it still takes a lot of time nonetheless. I've watched each episode 3 to 4 times before it gets posted, time I would have otherwise used to write, letter comics, or catch up on some reading. Speaking of which, when I do get the time, I'm catching up on Black Science, and it's been so good. If you're not into zany sci-fi, this might be a bit much for you, but it's very much in the space opera category. You don't need to know why or how things work, just accept it and get absorbed by the trouble Grant drags his family and coworkers into. Things really start to pay off around the Godworld arc, particularly at the end with Rebecca's story, and really do get better from there. I can't recommend it enough. Rick Remender puts out his best work with Giant Generator, and has a great partner in Matteo Scaletta with this series. If you haven't read it before, there's a few options to get caught up. I picked up hard copies at my local library, but you could also find it on Global Comics. Not that Remender or anyone else publishing with Image Comics needs my help pushing their books. I've got my own to push. And on that note, Black Friday sale. Free shipping. I've been getting some FOMO with all the Black Friday deals hitting my inbox lately. I've decided to join the fray. From now until Sunday, use the super creative code BLACKFRIDAY, all one word, on pestocomics.com and get free shipping. Catch up on the books you've missed, all sent to your door. If From Parts Unknown #1 catches your eye after this newsletter entry, you can get it there. All that said, there's still a great way to get an even better deal until Friday, and that's by checking out Big Smoke Pulp Volume 1 on Kickstarter. I reserve my best deals for Kickstarter through bundles, and shipping is included on these orders, with the exceptions of some add-ons. Either way, you're getting these as close to cost as I can get without losing my shirt. But just take my shirt. Take everything. And get yourself some sweet deals at pestocomics.com through Sunday, or on Kickstarter until Friday. Project updates. Big Smoke Pulp Volume 1 smashing stretch goals. I've added even more stretch goals as we're barreling through them at a speedy pace. This book is getting thicker by the day, and you can help make it even more so by showing your support before the campaign ends. I'm very excited that folks are so into this book. It means a lot to not just me, but to all the authors that are involved. The stories range from sordid sorcery to straight noir to zany sci-fi. These authors really did get the assignment and offer up some endlessly entertaining stories. You may not like every story, but I can more than guarantee that there's a story for you in this collection. Probably a few of them. What's been doing really well is the Kickstarter exclusive hardcover edition. I'm going to print this 1-to-1 based on what's ordered, so this is the only chance to get it in this format. If you're the type that likes to keep things pristine, you'll get a digital copy with it so that you can read on your Kobo while keeping the spine of the hardcover uncracked. Or heck, give it as a gift and keep the digital copy for yourself. The good news is, with how well this is all done, I'm definitely going to do a Volume 2 next year. Who knows? Maybe we can make it even bigger, but that only happens with your support. If you'd like to help us hit all the goals, you can find it on Kickstarter until Friday, November 29th at around 6 p.m. Eastern. Pre-launch coming soon for Naked Kaiju Woman. I've received the first few colored pages from JP, and I'm excited for how this is all coming together. This book should be completed before the launch on January 8th. My goal is to get the Kickstarter pre-launch up by the next newsletter, but for now, you can follow using the Backer Kit pre-launch page, and you'll find that link available on the Substack. More to come next week. Naked Kaiju Woman launches on January 8th. Event updates. Wayside Comics and Cocktails Christmas Market. The Christmas market has officially begun at Wayside. I've been following all the festivities on Wayside's Instagram, and it's getting me excited for my turn at the plate. The last time I actually spent some time in the shop, I sat to have a beer, thinking I'd hang around for a half hour or so, and ended up spending the entire afternoon there. It's really a friendly and warm place that I can't wait to re-experience. If you're in the Toronto area, or more specifically Newmarket, You should come by to have a drink or a fancy coffee. Omar also makes an excellent latte, by the way. Come by and chat about some comics. Plus, as a newsletter subscriber, I'll have a gift for you too, so be sure to come by. Find me there on December 7th. But first, let's talk fulfillment. The overlap. This is the first time I've been able to do overlapping campaigns on Kickstarter. It's a restriction for new creators on the platform. You must be both a creator in good standing and have successfully fulfilled 4 campaigns before launching your 5th. I technically did not qualify until after I fulfilled from Parts Unknown. However, after speaking with the Kickstarter Trust and Safety team, I was allowed to launch Big Smoke Pulp Volume 1 without having shipped out copies for From Parts Unknown to backers. It was very kind of them. Even more so, it's a testament to how your reviews, clicking that happy face on the campaign page makes a difference. And if you haven't done so and have backed From Parts Unknown, please visit the campaign page and click that happy face. Overlapping campaigns are a huge benefit as they'll allow me to launch campaigns a lot more frequently. If you're a fan of Pesto Comics but a wrestling comic isn't your style, much like Amelia Strilchuk let me know while we were chatting at Thought Bubble last weekend, I'll surely have something more to your liking launching next year. 2025 is going to be absolutely huge. We're talking 4 to 5 times the current output. Much of this track was laid in 2024, with JP and Daniel working well ahead into the final issue from Parts Unknown before issue 2 is ever launched, and Raphael is ready to get into issue 2 of Naked Kaiju Woman. Fortunately, I've been pretty good at the overlap. Planning is key. Knowing what needs to be done next and how to go about it really makes all the difference. Though there's been some room for experimentation. New printer for the new series. If you've read my previous entries, you know I've used Mixam to print our comics. I've been really happy with the print quality. In fact, they've made some changes recently that may draw me back for future projects, lowering the threshold for offset printing and bringing the costs way down per issue. That said, it's been a challenge to get help with things like variant covers, which I do for every campaign. For Crazy Latte Thing Called Love, there was such a high threshold for doing offset printing that I've been saddled with a very heavy inventory of every cover. And a reminder, you can help me offload some of these by checking out the store and using the code Black Friday until this Sunday at pestocomics.com. With From Parts Unknown #1, I didn't want to be in the same boat. I needed to have enough copies for future backers getting caught up when ordering issues 2, 3, 4, or 5, but I didn't want to get stuck with hundreds of copies filling up my basement. As well as things have been going with each campaign, I'm still not at the point that I can do hundreds and hundreds of copies without feeling the cost of it. That's where my new printer, Copywell, comes in. When I was speaking with Keith Gratcho at Fan Expo Canada this year, he told me that he's used Copywell for all his comics, a set of which I picked up. Saltwater was excellent, and not just for the print quality. Unlike Mixam, they're in one location that you can easily visit. The whole process with them was very smooth. They were always responsive, very quick to work with adjustments, and it was easy to pick up my books once the order was ready, rather than worrying about boxes ending up on my porch on a rainy Sunday. The quality of their books are great too, though not without some issues that I didn't anticipate. Bag and board blues. The one unfortunate thing in switching to this new printer is that the comic is just a hair larger than it used to be. To the naked eye, you really can't tell the difference between this and a copy of Crazy Latte Thing Called Love, until you try to cram it into a bag and board. The comic fits, but it does struggle. They're a little too tight and are liable to rip the bag if you're taking the comic out more than once or twice. If I'm being honest with you, I hope that's what's happening. Not the bag ripping, but I hope everyone is sharing From Parts Unknown #1 with their friends and flipping through the art and seeing the amazing work by Daniel and JP. I hope it's not spending too much time in that bag and board and instead just really being read. This setback wasn't too big a deal as I ordered some new bags and boards from Comic Pro line that are Silver Age sized, so they have an extra ½ an inch of width, allowing the comics to glide in with ease. Fortunately, with these boxes and boxes of Crazy Latte Thing Called Love copies I have sitting around, I have more than enough use for those smaller bags and boards. No waste happening on this ep. I do wish I planned a little better. I usually think of stretch goals during the campaign instead of beforehand, which is not something I ever advise. You should always plan and have an idea of what you'll offer well in advance, so you know you're within your budget. It's a good way to avoid things that you'll regret later. For example, the digest copy of Crazy Latte Thing Called Love. This time I had a plan. I commissioned an extra piece of art from Luke Maroney right off the top when I got him to do the joke cover. I had faith we would be able to hit that first stretch goal, so I was happy when we did. We got these cool little postcard-sized gags, and everyone who contributed to the campaign got their hands on one. I was very happy with the magnet from Crazy Latte Thing Called Love, and I wanted to repeat it with this campaign. My normal printer for these magnets is jukebox printing, and I'm almost always happy with the results. I use them for my business cards, coasters, bookmarks, basically anything that isn't the main book. Amazingly, they had a special sale on magnets just at the time that I was getting ready to fulfill the project. I already knew what image I was going to use for the magnet itself, which was the cover, and was ready to print. I thought I was using the same specs as Crazy Latte Thing Called Love, and it turns out I went a little bit smaller. By a little, I mean quite a bit smaller. Don't get me wrong, I still like how the magnet turned out, but it's not exactly what I imagined in my head. Given that these are extras, I don't think anybody's too upset with how they turned out. There was one thing to be upset about, though. Protection Racket. For every campaign that I've used Stallion Express for in the past, I've always included the Stallion Protection, which is an extra 10% or so per package on the cost of shipping. It's not a lot of money, we're talking 50 cents to 75 cents a package, but it adds up when you're sending dozens and dozens of packages. Not that I was looking to cut corners, I'm always happy to pay extra if it means the packages are going to get where they're meant to be going intact. The problem was, after the last campaign, when I did try to make a claim on a missing package, I had such a hard time doing so that it soured me on the whole protection aspect of things, as it was impossible to use the insurance. So many loopholes, and the burden of proof was way too high. I figured if the protection isn't actually offering any protection, why do it for this latest campaign? That was a mistake. A couple of backers had received their packages in some of the worst states I've seen in the past 4 campaigns that I've done. Someone must have danced on these packages en route. I'm not one to feed into conspiracy or believe that any company is going to go out of their way for an extra 50 cents, but I must have been lucky in the past, as I've never seen packages damaged like the evidence these couple of backers sent me. FYI, if you did receive a damaged package, just let me know, we'll sort it out. For the couple of packages that I resent, I was sure to reinforce them before sending again, cutting up some boxes to make an insert. It's an extra step, and it's a lot of manual work. But if it means that people are going to get their comics as expected, I'm happy to do it. Getting readers in for number 1. This is just the beginning of a 5-part series. For that reason, getting number 1 out there to as many human beings as possible is of the utmost importance. In the coming weeks, I'll be putting digital copies available for sale on all the usual DRM-laden stores that you can find, like Amazon, Kobo, Global Comics, and Google Books. And if you want DRM-free copies, those are exclusive to Kickstarter. I'm also making an effort to push this book as much as possible in person, wherever I go. I really do believe in this series. Any of you who've read it and saw the twist at the end know that things are going to get pretty wild going forward. It pays off in a huge way, getting more intense with each page. If you think there wasn't enough wrestling in this wrestling comic, don't worry. You'll see a lot more of that in upcoming issues. And if there wasn't enough horror in this horror book, once again, that'll be ramping up too. The end goal is to get this in as many hands as possible before the launch of issue 2 in February. And a last reminder, if you haven't read it, get it shipped to you free using the code Black Friday at pestocomics.com, or check it out with Big Smoke Pulp Volume 1 on Kickstarter until Friday. Lessons learned. My mother always repeats a version of a phrase, basically about being penny wise and pound foolish. I think that's a little bit of what I did in this campaign when it came to fulfillment. I'll be putting in not only the extra effort, but also the little bit of extra funding to make sure everyone gets their copies as expected. Moreover, I'll make sure stretch goals are budgeted so that there are no surprises at the end of the campaign. I thank all of you who backed this one. I truly believe it's the start of something special. We'll do this all again very shortly, as Big Smoke Pulp Volume 1 is almost wrapped with just 2 days to go in the campaign. I'm excited to keep things rolling with Naked Kaiju Woman launching in January after a small break for the holiday season. I'll still be here though, every Wednesday, as usual. I still have a lot to share, and I'm happy to have you to share it all with. For the Americans still reading, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. For everyone else, until next time. Coming up on the Substack, December 4th, Getting the Reps In, reviewing NaNoWriMo, or whatever we're calling it now. And December 11th, an ode to my cat Oliver. He is the most handsome. And December 18th, a postmortem for Big Smoke Pulp Volume 1, reviewing the first non-comic project by Pesto Comics. And upcoming appearances. December 7th, as mentioned earlier, I will be at Wayside Comics and Cocktails for their holiday market. It's a bit of a spotlight with me, a couple other creators, and I'm trying to get Roberto to come down too, so we'll be sharing the table. And yeah, if you're interested in anything we have, please come on by. And more importantly, if you are listening to this and you haven't subscribed to the Substack, please do, because if you do, I have something for you, just as a thank you. And even then, I will have a clipboard. You can write down your email. We'll make sure we get you situated. So really do appreciate it. And Roberto and I are on the wait list. We've applied together for both Toronto Comic Con and Fan Expo Canada. We're going to see how those play out, if we end up going or not. But keep an eye posted. We'll update things as they come. And for the Pesto Comics release calendar, as I keep mentioning, January 8th, Naked Kaiju Woman #1 will launch. Followed by From Parts Unknown 2 on February 26th. And as of right now, we may move this up or down depending on how well the overlapping releases go. We have From Parts Unknown #3 on April 9th and From Parts Unknown #4 on May 28th. As I mentioned, we may play with these dates, move things up or down based on how it all plays out, because there's a lot in the backlog to get out, and we'll share that come the new year, all of the plans for what's coming. And if you haven't had enough of listening to me, the Instant Ink comic book podcast has 2 new episodes with Daniel Kelvin. It's the end of our little arc with him. See the finished work of art as we talk about all things comics and crowdfunding and going to cons and all that business. It was a pretty good chat. And again, if you're not in the market for listening to a whole podcast, we also are very prevalent on YouTube Shorts and our Instagram at Instant Ink Podcast. So please see those stories, give them likes, do the whole thing. Help us in the algorithm so we can get seen by even more comic book fans. And that's it for this week. I thank you so much for listening. This was a long one. I learned a lot from this fulfillment campaign, more in the sense that I had 2 simultaneous campaigns going on, with Big Smoke Pulp launching and still trying to fulfill From Parts Unknown, and trying to keep those 2 things in my headspace at the same time was a lot to take on. Again, not a bad thing. If anything, it kept me on my toes the whole time. And if I'm being completely honest, I mentioned in the beginning, it's the Instant Ink comic book podcast. That is what's taking up most of my bandwidth right now. The edits take longer than I would hope. I'm working on systems to make that work. I've gone ahead and with the Black Friday sale, got DaVinci Studio Pro. That has a whole bunch of other features like transcription editing. It'll help with the green screen, all that business. So I'm hoping that really streamlines this, and I can we record a podcast, I edit it, I move on with my life. Because there's a lot of writing that I owe folks as well. You'll be hearing about all of that in the first post of the new year. So for Christmas, I mentioned what's coming up on the Substack. The Christmas post is our 2024 in review, and then the following post in the new year is the preview for what is coming in 2025. And let me tell you, it's a doozy. I know I share a bit in the release calendar, but that's just the things I've announced. There's some things that are squishy, that don't have titles or don't have, or just aren't in a state that they can be fully announced quite yet, but I will hint at the things that I can, and I will share the things that I can. But I'm telling you, 2025 is going to be something else. There's going to be so much going on. I put myself a bit in a hole to make sure that 2025 would be a very successful year. That's at least the hope, right? I got all these comics in production on the back of some unfortunate means of credit and things like that. But hopefully I have your support to get me back out of that hole and possibly better when we come the new year with these new series that are launching. Yeah, that's the life of a indie comics creator, you know? There's nobody bankrolling you except yourself. And sometimes you got to take the jump. And like I mentioned, I really do believe in this story. I wouldn't have gone this far ahead if I didn't think that people would enjoy it. It's hitting 2 markets that I think are, one of which is underserved, which is wrestling comics. There's a couple out there. We got PJ Curling on our podcast tonight as I'm recording this, which is the day before this actually gets posted. So we'll see how that one goes. But I'm doing something for him and his wrestling comic. So it's a cool little micro community we got going with 2 or 3 of us in there. But yeah, I think there's room for a lot more because there's so many stories to tell, especially with the crossover between comics and wrestling and all that. But I totally get if that's not your bag. We got Naked Kaiju Woman as well. That's going to be something more catered to the Kickstarter crowd because NSFW does so well. And though I'm not doing necessarily a naughty book, I'm hoping it at least catches those folks' eyes and I could tell them a really cool story. about a sweet girl who just happens to grow into a 50-foot woman and has to fight off the kaiju, being the only one who can. It's a really cool story. I can't wait for you to see it. And then, yeah, there's so much more I want to share. It's all, again, very nascent stages. The only stuff that's super duper firm are those 2 books, but everything else is on its way and being planned. It's in various states of production. Not all comics either. I'm working on all kinds of stuff. So I can't wait to share that with you. But for now, I'll let you go. I really do appreciate you listening. I'm seeing the podcast numbers or in the triple digits of people downloading every week. I really do appreciate it. The fact that you spend any of your time with me. And for that reason, I'm going to let you go instead of rambling even more. I'll have lots more to say next week. Can't wait to talk to you then. Have a good one. Thanks.